Hey Villani here, how are ya? So, continuing on the material series, today I'll show you how to control material parameters from blueprints. I'm always telling you, yeah, create parameters so you can control them from blueprints, etc. So now I'm gonna show you how to do it. One thing I'll show you is how to control it from triggers, so every time I come here near this light, it lights up, and how to apply different materials for several objects, all from one single material and some blueprint commands. And also I can change them in real time. So let's get to it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to create a new material for the bulb. M_bulb. In the last video, we talked about material layers. But one thing I forgot to say is you can't mix translucent and non-translucent materials. As you can see here, you have to choose a blend mode. That's because they are really different. They are programmed in a different way. So you can't mix them by just changing material parameters between pixels. That's what material functions does. So for my bulb, I'll have the transparent glass and the screw metal. Since one is transparent and the other one's not, I'll have two separate materials for them. So first I'm gonna do the bulb. I'll set this to translucent. I'll activate the more realistic translucent mode, the surface forward shading, screen space reflections. For the reflections to work when the bulb is transparent, you have to use a light color, so I'll leave this at white. I'll leave metallic at max, so it's highly reflective. Roughness at 0. And for the opacity, I'll create a parameter. Because we're gonna control it from blueprints. Now, for when the light is on, we want it to have a glow, so we'll put the light color in the emissive color. Create a color node, leave its default at yellow. And also I want to control its intensity, so I'll create an intensity node here. Leave the default at 0, so as default my light bulb is off. It's transparent, no intensity in emissive color. For this to work I have to multiply my color for the intensity. Now translucent materials take very long to compile, so I'll pause the video here, and after it's done compiling I'll come back again. The material is compiled and I'm gonna create an instance from it so I can see parameters changes in real time. So right click here, right click on the material, create material instance, mi for material instance _bulb. Now let me create a sphere here to show you how it works. I'll apply this material on my sphere. As you can see, we have the reflections. If I control the opacity, you may have thought, why 0.1 instead of 0 fully transparent? Because if I put 0, even the reflections go away. So you must have a minimum visibility for reflections to work correctly. I like to use 0.1. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, 0.2, 0.3, they all work. Actually here, I really like 0.3. Let me see even more. No. Yeah, 0.25 is cool. Alright, I'll leave this at 0.25. Let me show you the effect we're after. So when I get near my bulb and we light it up from blueprints, we'll change the opacity to 1, the intensity to something really high, like, I don't know, 200. No, it's too high. The scenario is already dark, so maybe 50. Yeah, 50 is kinda cool. Maybe when it's smaller the glow gets weaker. And the color we don't have to change, unless you want another color. So this will be our bulb lit, and unlit is intensity 0 and opacity 0.25. Now I'm gonna import my bulb and show you how to insert two materials in the same mesh. I'm here in 3ds Max, where I modeled my very poorly done bulb, and to have separate materials in Unreal, you have to apply separate materials in your authoring application, be it Max, Blender, Maya. So here I have the bulb material applied to my bulb, and a screw material applied to my screw. It's very good practice to name your materials, because when you get to Unreal, you can see these names there, so it's easier to remember which slot is for which material. So I'm here in Unreal importing my light bulb. I'll leave skeletal mesh off since this is not a skeletal mesh. No auto generic collision, no subdivision surface. Whenever I export some material, some mesh from 3ds Max, I export normals and tangents. So here, the default is import normals. I always select import normals and tangents. And also combine meshes. I want my bulb to be a single mesh. As I model it separately, the bulb and the screw, if I leave this off, Unreal will import two objects instead of one. I don't want that. I'll leave import materials and textures off, because I'll do them here. And that's it. Okay, my light bulb is here. Let me show you how it is. As you can see, in my materials section, I have element 0 and element 1. Element 0 is automatically renamed for me as screw, and element 1 as bulb. So this helps me to know which one is which. Imagine if I left my materials as material 1, material 2. Imagine this in a mesh with 10 materials or more. That gets very clumsy. So remember to always rename your materials inside your authoring application. So I can apply my bulb here. mi_bulb. Alright, this is my light bulb. And let's do the material for the screw. If you want to skip this making materials part, I leave the topics, the timings of the topics in the video description. So you can skip it if you want. I completely understand. Also, I won't know if you do it. So for this, I want a full metal. Not alchemist though. A little bit of roughness. I'll leave it a scalar maybe if I want to change this later. Roughness. Something like 0.2. And also I'll do my color as a parameter. I don't know if I'll change it later. Leave it as a kind of dark gray. No, kind of light gray. Base color. Okay, so yeah, I like it. Maybe darker, but I can change it later. So I'm gonna compile this. I click save for compiling because when I save, Unreal automatically applies the changes to my material. So if something happens, if Unreal crashes later, etc., the changes are already saved. Now I'm gonna create an instance from this material and apply it to my bulb. Screw, create instance, mi, right? I'll save it, save everything. Light bulb, screw, mi. Alright, now I have my light and my screw. I'll delete this sphere, it was just for showing the transparency. Now what I want to do, now I'll create a trigger volume here, and every time my character enters the trigger volume, it will light up my bulb. Actually, let me put the bulb there first. Light bulb. Here it's very small. I did this in a realistic size, but I'll make it bigger so it's easier to see. Okay, there's my bulb. Let me put it back a little. Turn off snapping. Okay. Before I put a light here, I'm gonna convert this into a blueprint so I can create the light inside the blueprint directly. Blueprint, add script. Create a folder here for blueprints. Name it lightbulb blueprint. Okay. No, actually, BP underscore. Create blueprint. Okay, here's my light. I wanna add a component of the kind light. Point light. So now I have a point light. Let me turn off snapping here because the bulb is very small and the snapping is too big for it. Okay, now I have my lighting. I'm gonna make this light yellow so it fits the material. Oops, I'm doing the opposite. Alright, let's see how it is in my environment. Ah, that's cool. It's a very strong light, but cool. I want this light to be to have a little smaller radius. Alright, and now the color maybe something more orange. Just a little bit. Okay, I like it. Oh, and the intensity is too high. More attenuation. Okay, that's cool. So I have my light. I'll create a trigger. Volumes. Where is trigger volume? So what I want to do is every time, where's the volume? Release. Okay. So what I want to do is every time a character enters this volume, the light will light up. Actually, I'll create this volume inside my blueprint so it's easier to access its variables and detect collision. Add component. I'll use a sphere volume. Where is the collision? Sphere collision. Alright. I'll make this bigger because here I would have to get very near to the light. Sphere radius, maybe a meter. Okay, meter is fine. Let's dock it here. Okay, so how do I control this light and its material? Let's go to the event graph. I'll delete these. I don't believe I need them right now. If I do, I'll create them again later. Let's get my sphere and add an event to it. On component begin overlap. On component begin overlap is fired every time something enters your collision volume or your trigger in this case. Also, let me correct see if the collisions here are right. Generate overlap events, we'll need it so we know when these events happen. Collision presets, overlap all dynamic. That's right, our character will overlap this and we're gonna be notified when it happens. So I need to check if the overlap, actually if the other actor is our player. So I need to know what blueprint is our player. He is a third person character blueprint. Alright, so I'll get the other actor, cast into a third person character, and if the cast fails, that means he's not a third-person character. So it comes to cast failed, and I have to do nothing. If it works, it will execute this pin. So it's from this pin we're gonna change the light and the bulb materials. So first thing, I'll leave the light off by default, setting its intensity to 0. So remember, when I want to light it up, it will be 1400. 0. Now my light's off. And here, if something overlaps, I'll get my light, set intensity 1400. And now for the part you've all been waiting for: how to modify material parameters in blueprints. I'll drag my static mesh variable here. Remember, my static mesh is the light bulb. And I'll drag a node called create dynamic material instance. This, create dynamic material instance. In order to modify materials from blueprints, you need to create this dynamic material instance. But you don't need to create it more than once. You just create it once, start in a variable, and modify it after. So I won't create here in the begin overlap, I'll create on begin place since it happens only once. Begin play. Now you need to know your element index to get the correct material. You have two ways of doing it. One, not very safe, is to look at your mesh. I'll close these materials. Look at your mesh. Oops, the mesh. And see the element of your material. Element 0 is the screw, element 1 is the glass. That's the one we want to modify. So we put 1 here. Another way is to get by name. That's a better way, because if you decide to change your model in your authoring application and add more materials, they may change order here. So if you get by name, it's safer because you probably won't be changing the name. So here I'll get the material by name. Get material index is the one I want. Bulb. So now I know the index for my bulb. The source material, you only need to set this up if you change the material. If you don't change the material and leave this empty, it will automatically copy the material that's in the index you selected. So I'll start this in a variable and call this bulb material. So now I have a dynamic material instance and I can modify its parameters. I'll get this variable and you need to know what kind of parameter you want to change and its name. So if I want to change a texture, it's set texture parameter value. Then I choose my parameter name here, the texture name, and the texture. To change the color, it's set vector parameter value. So set the name here. For example, I could input color and make my color. I'll do it. It'll be very cool. I'll make my color every time I step into the sphere volume. My light will light up in a different color. Make color. I want my colors to be kind of bright, so I'll make random values here. Random range. Random float in range. I'll make values that are at minimum 0.6 and max 1. So I'll plug it into these three. So every time I enter my trigger, my light will light up in a different color. And for my intensity, set scalar parameter value. So I'll set my intensity here. And if I remember correctly, we decided 50 was good. And also, I have changed my opacity. So, set scalar parameter value, opacity, one. Actually, I'm forgetting something. Let me first get more space here. I'm changing the material color, but I'm not changing the light color. So I have to do that. Point light. Set color. Set color. Alright. Now, if I only get this make color and plug here, it will evaluate this node again and get a different color. So my material and my color will have different colors. That's not what I want. I want to get the same value that my material received. So the first thing, I gotta get that color. So get, as you can set, you can get. Get vector parameter value, plug it here and here, get this value, and the name of the value is color. And another thing I need to change here, I just remembered, is this going to all three colors will give the same value for all the three. So it won't change the color very much. So I will create two more of these. First, I want to have a little bit more variation here. And 2, 3. So now, I believe this will work. Let's compile and play. Okay, so reddish, greenish, white, bluish. Yeah, that's working. And you can see my material is also getting the correct color, same as the light. That's it. Now you know how to control materials from blueprints. I'm gonna do the end overlap here to change the light back off and the material back to transparent. But you can skip this part and go to the next part, where I'll show you how to apply several different material instances to several meshes. So here I'm gonna select again my sphere, and on component end overlap, create an event for this. And if the end overlap is caused again by my third person character, it'll change all these parameters back. So it's easier if I just Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, now the new light intensity will be 0. I don't have to change the color, I'm turning it off so the color won't matter. My, what is this? Intensity will be 0. Set scalar parameter value, this is opacity, 0.25. I don't have to set the color of the light again, because again it won't matter. Okay, so I don't need to compile. If I play, it compiles anyway. So when I enter, let's go. Alright. Man, it's so realistic. Even the glow of the light goes away slowly. It's amazing, I love this engine. Alright. Now let me show you how to control several material instances for several meshes. What I'll do here is, I'm gonna take this box and all of these pieces, I'll apply the same material to all of them, and from blueprints, I'll change the material for each one of them with a random value or something. So I'll create a new material. Material, M underscore, basic. I want to control almost everything from blueprints, so I'll create a vector parameter. This will be my base color. The color can be anyone, I'll control it afterwards. A scalar for metallic. Remember, metallic works better when it's 0 or 1. I'll leave it at 1, and from blueprint we'll make it randomly be 0 or 1. A scalar for specular, another for roughness. Specular. Actually, I don't need to control the specular. The default value is very good for many materials. If you don't remember, default is 0.5. Roughness. The roughness... okay, whatever the default. I'll change them later. I'll save and compile my material. Alright, now I'll create an instance from it. Actually, I won't. I'll apply the same material for all of these things. Since you're gonna control the material parameters from blueprints, you don't need to create an instance to do that. You can really pick from the default material, and Unreal automatically creates the instance for you. You know something else I want to control? This is the emissive color and intensity of the material. So I'll get another scalar, intensity, and multiply it by the base color. Yeah, the color and the emissive will be the same. That makes sense. Okay, compile it again. Okay, so now it's very weird. But it'll get cooler in a moment. Let's go... I'll do this in my level blueprint, so I don't have to create a blueprint just for this. I'll select all of these objects so I can later create variables for them in the blueprint. Open my level blueprint. Right click here. Create references to 6 selected actors. So now I have all my actors here. It's easier if I put all of them in an array and then loop through this array to create the random values. So I'll make an array and add each one of them as an array value. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I have this array. I want to create a begin play node here. You can also create a begin play by holding P and clicking. So I want to do a for each. So we'll loop through each one of these elements. And now in my loop body, I'll change the material parameters. So for each of my elements, I want to create dynamic material instance. Remember, as I'm doing this in begin play, for each one of them, I'll create just one dynamic material instance. If you want to change parameters in tick or something that happens many times, remember to create the material instance once, somewhere like begin play, and then afterwards change the material parameters from a variable or something. So here I'll create a dynamic material instance. The element index, as my meshes now have only one material, it can be 0. My source material don't have to be set because it will use the material that's already applied to the meshes. Now to change its parameters. Set scalar, no, the color first, vector, parameter value. I'll create a random color just like I did with the light bulb, so I can simply copy that code or these nodes. I like to think of it as code. And Ctrl V. Put it here. Now for my colors, I can have black, I don't care. So the minimum can be 0. Okay, and base color. Now I'm gonna set the intensity. Set scalar first, then the name. Intensity. My value will also be random. Random float, nope, random float in range. Random range, random floating range. Minimum of 0 and maximum of 1, so they won't glow. I don't want them glowing. And whatever can I change? Remember, set scalar, roughness. I think I left roughness. Oh, and the material, the metallic, that would be 0 or 1. Roughness, same thing, but yeah, 0 to 1. That's right. And now the metallic. This is not a simple float because I want it to be 0 or 1. So set scalar parameter value. The name will be metallic. I did left metallic, didn't I? Yeah. So my value. I'll create a random bool. So every time I call this, it will give me true or false. Which one? I don't know. And I need to select a float. And if it is to pick A, or if it is true, I want to be 1. And if it is false, it will be 0. Alright, compile my level blueprint. I believe that's it. Play. Yay! Now every time I play, my materials have random parameters. Each one of them is different from the other. See? Cool, eh? And my light still works. Just for fun, I'll make this execute every time I press M for materials. So M is a holy shit. Event M input M. No, where is M? Man, it was so easier before to find this. So every time this is pressed, I wanna execute this again. But I don't wanna create dynamic material instance every time. I'll do the same thing here, a for each loop for this array. Well, I wanna do this in a way that I could reuse these nodes. So I'll create two separate for loops. The first one will only create the dynamic material instances, and the second one I'll reuse to edit the material instances parameters. So this one I'll leave to create the material instances, and then I'll have another. Unplug this, create an array for the material instances. So materials, dynamic, material instance dynamic reference, and this will be an array. I'm using Unreal 4.15, and to create a simple array, you have to select this from the drop-down. If you're using 4.14 or older, you just activate the array button here. So I'll get my array, add to add the variable, and add the variable. Okay. Now for this loop that will be executed at first, once this one completes, I'll not iterate on the objects. Actually, I'll iterate on the array, on the materials. So all of these will be my array element. This is the one I add. Okay. And all of these will work for each element of this array. Now let me drag this forward to the right. Okay, and every time I press M, I want to execute this node again. So it'll change all of my materials parameters every time I press M. So I'm walking here, happy, M. M, 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 M. Yeah, let's go. Well guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you learned a lot from this video. If you liked it, click like and subscribe. Also tell your friends about it, because the more people watch my videos, the more I can dedicate my time for doing tutorials. And remember, this is a series on materials that will be getting more and more advanced, so it's really worth subscribing now. If you want to learn something specific, leave a comment and I'll do a video on it. Thanks for watching, until the next video.